I'm Gretchen Schott, and this is Made for Impact, a show for leaders who want to leave a lasting impact on their organizations, their teams, and their lives. Today, I want to talk about the traits of a high-performing employee and those things that managers often get confused by, those behaviors that managers think indicate a high-performing employee, but actually are not. And I was inspired to talk about this a couple weeks ago. I did an episode around engagement pitfalls. And in one of the comments, my friend Suzanne Kacharzik had commented around her relatability with the engagement pitfalls. And when I was talking specifically about overusing or burning out your high performers, she made a comment. And I thought, gosh, that kind of inspires me to think about what does indicate a high performer employee. Like, what are those behaviors? And so this is my list of top 5 behaviors that would indicate that you are a high performing employee. All right. So the first one would be consistently driving results through your performance. Most people who are considered high performers, their business, their manager, the organization are relying on them because they consistently show up. They consistently exceed expectations. They consistently meet their goals. And so if you are wondering, like, gosh, am I a top performer? If you are consistently performing your job, that indicates that you are a high performance employee. And with that, you are balancing quality and efficiency. It's not just about setting low goals and knocking them off the table or knocking them off the chart. It's about consistently performing at a high level. All right. Second thing is your ability to proactively problem solve. Many of us have heard managers come to us and say, don't come to me with problems, present a solution, right? Well, high performing employees are very proactive in their problem solving. They take the initiative to think about what the challenges are. They anticipate those challenges, and then they also help improve those challenges, right? So your ability to be a proactive problem solver is an indication that you are a top performing employee. And if you think about people on your team, the go-to, the person that you're always going to for advice, more than likely, there is some part of this where they have that great ability to take information, sort it out, and then identify obstacles and present you with ideas and suggestions on how to overcome those obstacles, right? So having really strong, proactive problem-solving skills is the second trait of a high performer. The third trait for a high performer, I believe, is your ability to build relationships, foster relationships, and cultivate relationships across your organization. And with that, also having the ability to take and give feedback constructively. We can't build relationships if we aren't able to actually engage in productive conflict and dialogue. So a high-performing individual in your organization does a wonderful job of building relationship, fostering relationships, collaborating, but also demonstrates that really good strength in taking in feedback and providing feedback really, really well. So consistently driving results, being a great problem solver, fostering and collaborating great relationships and taking in feedback. My fourth tip, my fourth behavior that I think indicates that you are a high performer is what I would call your adaptability and your learning agility. So how quickly are you able to learn new tools and systems, and how easily do you embrace change? Those two things come together. So high-performing leaders, high-performing individuals are able to quickly adapt and quickly identify where they need to learn and grow and go deep and do that so that they can go back and have productive problem solving, develop relationships, and show strong and consistent performance. My last behavior that I believe indicates that you are a high-performing employee is being able to think about the long term while accomplishing short-term strategies. So having a strategic mindset with execution. Leaders who are high performers are able to recognize the work that they're doing today, how it's going to impact others on the team, how it's going to impact other parts of the organization. And they can also prioritize and focus to work through goals that lead up to annual goals that lead up to organizational goals, right? So having that strategic mindset with the focus on execution. Those are my 5 ways I believe that you demonstrate that you're a high-performing employee. Now, I sit in a lot of rooms with managers who are talking about their top talent, interested in building their talent. And I often am frustrated with managers who don't understand what a high performing employee is. And so, what I want to tell you now is what I believe are probably 5 of the behaviors that managers mistake as high performance and are actually an indication of a leader's inability or a poor ability to manage their time and be focused in their work. So, the first behavior that managers often mistake as high performance is the constantly always busy. The leader that always appears like they're busy, mistaking that as, oh gosh, they're a high performer. They're always working. They're always busy. They're always doing something. Busyness without prioritization gets confused as being effective. That's not effective. Busy does not equal effective. Focus and prioritization does equal effectiveness. So managers often confuse the flurry of busy without paying attention to how effective or focused the work is that's being done. So that's my first one. If someone's always busy, doesn't mean that they're always a high performer. My second behavior that managers mistake is the frequent last minute success. This often gets assumed as coming in and saving the day. That is not high performance. It is actually often a revelation in someone's poor planning and procrastination. People who are considered high-performing leaders that always have a last-minute win at the end of the day, those individuals often are kind of addicted to the rush you get from procrastinating. And they love that, like, coming in at the last minute. Coming in at the last minute consistently does not mean that you're a high performer. Completing tasks under pressure under the 11th hour might seem impressive, but doing that consistently usually reflects poor planning and procrastination on that person's part, which doesn't mean that they're a high performer. It just means that they need to focus in on their procrastination skills. The third behavior that I think that managers often mistake as high performing, which isn't high performing, is an employee that always says yes. Always says yes to new work, always says yes to a new project. They're my go-to person. They always take on new stuff when I ask them. This often leads to failure for that individual because that leader who always says yes is demonstrating they don't know how to delegate. And they are also becoming a bottleneck in your organization. If your high performer employee is someone that everything goes through them or nothing gets done until they do it, they're likely demonstrating an inability to delegate, and they're hurting your team as well as the organization because they're not being efficient. They're more than likely trying to control things. And so we mistake, again, someone's over-indexing of controlling a situation as considering high performance. It's not high performance. High performance is consistently showing up with results, consistently solving problems, consistently building relationships. If all the relationships are about me, that's not a high-performing leader. That's a person that probably needs a little bit more coaching on how to build relationships with others and trust other individuals and get results through them and with them. The fourth mistake I see a lot of managers make is looking at high productivity as the same thing as multitasking. So many high-performing leaders are described as they can multitask, they can do lots of things, they can juggle all types of things at one time. And this gets mistaken as highly productive. However, highly productive leaders are focused and they can execute well consistently. It's less about how many things they can get done and more about how many things are they getting done well. The fact that you can juggle multiple things doesn't necessarily mean that you are juggling these things and consistently performing at a high level. Often, it is a distraction for actually getting focused and prioritizing on what you actually need to get done. So don't mistake someone that can juggle multiple tasks as being super effective or super productive. That doesn't mean that an individual can't be effective, but consistently managing multiple projects effectively is very challenging, and it doesn't always indicate that that person is a high-performing employee. My last one, and this one is one I hear all the time, and I push on this with managers often, is a behavior with an employee that responds immediately to every request. Managers often believe that if an employee is responding immediately to all these requests, well, they're a high-performing employee. That is not true. This behavior does not indicate high performance. Rather, it indicates an individual's inability to set realistic boundaries and long-term thinking. Just because your go-to person responds immediately, it does not mean that they've given you their best work, that they've given you their clearest thoughts. It just means that they are operating under the false belief that speed and busyness equals success, which is not always true. So I would love to hear what you think. Did you think I missed any? Did you think I'm wrong? I'd love to hear either one of those. I'm curious as to whether or not, as a high-performing leader, have you experienced these behaviors? Have you demonstrated those behaviors? Are there any behaviors that I missed? And as a manager, are you looking at the right behaviors to determine who's a high-performing employee in your organization? Too often, as a manager, we look at ourselves and how we like to operate and then put that lens on our employees. So I'd really encourage you to think about, as a manager, am I looking for behaviors that I see in myself and my employees and indicating that as high performance? Or are you really looking at that person's ability to do their job? And even if it's different than the way that you would do it, is it still high performance? Could it be high performance? Maybe your definition of what high performing employees looks like needs to change. I'm curious what you think. And I would love to hear from you. So if you are not following me on social, please do so. Find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. I'd love for you to tell me what you think about this. And if you're not getting my newsletter, I would love it if you'd sign up, because monthly I send out a newsletter talking about leadership and development and growth and how you can make a difference in your organization and your community. So I would love it if you'd follow me. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my newsletter. But most importantly, I want you to remember that you are made for impact.